If you want to learn how to close more real estate deals in the land business, then this video is for you. Every Wednesday, our team hosts an enrichment call on Discord where we give away free game, tips, and tricks on how to close more deals. The link to our Discord is going to be in the description. If you guys are interested in joining our team, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section. Enjoy the video, guys.
Let's just jump right in. Why does psychology matter in land sales? Well, first point what I want to make is people buy emotionally then justify logically. Typically when you're selling something, whatever the product is, you definitely have to get someone to connect with you, and you is essentially your job as a salesman is to trigger some emotional triggers, right? You're supposed to get them thinking about something that means near and dear to them. What does that mean? So for example, I used to work at cell phone sales, right? And dads would come to me and say, hey, I need a cell phone. They just want one line, they don't want to do anything. I say, hey, me as a good salesman, I would say, but what about your family? What about your son and your daughter? They're not going to want a cell phone, your mom, right? Or your spouse. But you kind of hit that emotional trigger. That emotional trigger is touching things and relating it to the conversation with things that are near and dear to them. So for example, with land, right, we often see maybe sometimes one thing people are maybe a motivated seller is because they want to get rid of the land. It maybe holds some negative value to them. There's a perfect example with this lot that we were dealing with. The sister didn't want the lot because her brother had passed away, and her brother was the one that gave her the lot, and she just felt like a negative energy against it and wanted to sell it, right? So they'll buy emotionally or make a financial decision emotionally and then justify it logically, right? And that's where you kind of sum it up with the logic, the numbers. That's how you can see psychology at play in the first point. Second point, understanding motivations helps us guide sellers and buyers effectively. Motivations. Why are you just going back to the cell phone example? Why do I need to buy a new cell phone? Right? Oh, it's cracked. Why do I need to sell my land? Oh, I'm tax delinquent. Why do I need to buy this land up? It's an opportunity that can to turn into an 8 unit possibility. I'll be able to make X amount monthly. Motivations. See what people are motivated by and then guide them towards that, right? They want to make sure that their family's good, right? Somebody said, hey, this is originally family land, right? We have to make sure that everybody's okay with it. Okay, you do that. You help them in that process. You don't take out their motivations. It's a little bit of sales is a little bit of persuasion, a little bit of alignment, right? You being aligned with the person on the other side, you being aligned with your prospect. Okay, so let's look at some key seller and buyer psychographics. Psychographics for a seller, right? First one, typical fear of being scammed. You may have heard this in your cold calling session. Hey, who is this? Or I wasn't expecting this call. I don't trust you. I don't want to be scammed. People will just tell you flat out, I don't want to be scammed, right? There's many ways to say it, but the fear of being scammed is something that's very actually common. You're calling from an unknown number. You've never spoken to this person a day in your life, right? What do you have to do to overcome that fear of being scammed, right? You give yourself credibility. You give them your website, show them your face, right? That's why we're all we have our website, guys. It's nice. We spent some time on it, and it represents us well. So use it, right? It gives us credibility. Then that will turn them more onto you and more off of the idea that you're a scammer, right? They want quick and easy closings. We don't want to be bombarded with paperwork. Who does, right? But they typically want quick and easy closings. And that's how, we as a team, we can all move effectively to overcome that, right? It's not just on you alone. They're often in distress, right? Taxes, inheritance, divorce. This is divorce. That's actually a niche for some people when they do land wholesales, right? They go specifically for lots that have recently been divided, or whatever the case is, because it's a quick sale. It's nichey, right? It's a specific set list. Um, this I like the taxes one. Taxes is so, if Uncle Sam's behind them, maybe they'll want a quick buck to try to sell it, right? That's what you can kind of play on. Inheritance. Oh, this is inherited land. Let's turn it into cash, right? Especially if they're not going to do anything with the land, right? We're the land investors, right? So those are some psychographics that you can easily overturn, right? Now, what about for a buyer? Or in this case, developers, investors, we're looking at value, your return on your investment, right? Your ROI. Essentially, what is it in for them, right? Business is always a win-win situation, right? Otherwise, it doesn't. Usually, nothing happens, right? You're not spending your money for nothing in stores. You have to get some type of value for the input, for the money that you put out, right? So what do they get, right? Play on that. Make sure they understand their return on investment, zoning, comps, right? Show them that you did the research and said that, hey, this is a competitive price. You're getting a good buy. Zoning and comps is so huge, right? What can you do with the land? At what price, right? Because they don't have to buy the land at first. They not only have to buy it, they have to build on it, renovate it, drill, water, sewage, electricity, right? So much goes into this that we can easily overcome just by knowing these, right? Want undervalued land with upside. With upside meaning what? They want a good deal, right? What is the this property is tax delinquent? Sure, the grass and the weeds are a mile high, whatever, but they possibly just want a quick and easy flip, something that they could take ugly and make beautiful, right? There's shows on Hulu with people that do that. They buy ugly homes and they renovate it for families, right? That's very common. That's very, very common. It's called renovation, renos, right? Rehabs. Uh, Businesses do just that, just rehabs, just rehabilitating old places, right? They want to see some possible, whatever the possibility is to bring it out, right? What is it that they can get out of it? Prefer speed, certainty, and professionalism, right? In the previous enrichment, we talked that sellers are not usually pros, right? But sometimes your buyers and developers and your investors, right? Those are probably pros. Maybe not pros all the time, the person that you're speaking with, but maybe they have some skin in the game, right? We have to understand that maybe we may not be able to answer every question that they may have just because they're more experienced and they might be nitpicky on things, right? They want people who are knowledgeable. I should have put that on here. They want people that are knowledgeable on their, not only on their business, on their product, right? Sure, you can be knowledgeable in the business. Tell them, hey, this is how it works. We'll get you the XI title, do XYZ, right? But you have to sell the buyer on these things to let them know that yes, I can get you a quick, efficient transaction, right? And it will include all of these things. So these are some type of typographics that we typically see within our business, and these are, again, standard people. Sometimes your average Joe Schmo, right? But buyers definitely, right? Show them what you got. Principles of persuasion, right? So psychology, remember I said it's persuasion, part alignment, right? What type of principles of persuasion are we referring to when it comes into land deals or psychology? Reciprocity, give the value first. Going back to what I just said, right? You don't just give money in the store and walk out with nothing, right? You walk out with a product, you work out with a service. Give them something of value. When I used to work at health insurance, I would call these people and they say, hey, I get 1,000 calls a day. I'm sick and tired of this. You know what I would tell them? I would say, listen, go to donotcall.gov and put your phone number. That will, put your phone on the government's do not call registry. And, then every time, oh, thank you so much. They just open up. They open up to me because I helped them out. I gave them something of value. Once you do that, you immediately still go back to your reason for the call. In case of health insurance, yeah, no problem. This will slow down the calls. You'll probably get a couple more through, but just to make sure you weren't looking for health insurance. I do have, competitive products, straight line persuasion, boom, right into it. Same thing with land, right? Same thing with land. Yeah, go put your phone on the do not call list, but what do you not have land to offer? I'm just I'm a land investor. I'm possibly could put money in your hands for your land, right? Give them some value first. Scarcity. We only have a few buyers already viewing this property. We already have. I'm sorry. This is give them the idea that one, we are busy people because we are right. And we do have other things to go on. But maybe even if we don't have a few buyers, give them this scarcity mindset. That'll help them kind of tip the scales a little bit. Maybe someone's teetering on the line of of selling or buying, right? Well, no problem. Listen, we were just checking by. We do have a few just because to see if we can get some different pricing. Trying to just get our best bang for the buck. Whatever, say something that will make them think that this is a limited time deal. Okay. Authority. Speak like a local expert. That goes back to being knowledgeable, right? Got to know your product. Speak like the expert. Speak like the expert in your field. Explain to them the process. Also with authority too, I think when we're doing these calls, when we're talking to people, when if we're making these business deals, we often or tend to give the other person, say ma'am or sir, you know. But I would say, guys, I think that definitely is respectful all the time. But when we're in sales, especially coming from a stance of authority, we are all equal parties. There's 50 sides, one side to a sale, the buyer and the seller. There's equal footing in that. And we don't deserve to be less all the time. So yes sir, yes sir, yes sir at everything is I don't think so. I think use it maybe necessary. Maybe you sense that the person is a senior. I think that's definitely appropriate time to use it. But when you do that, right, it just gives them the upper hand automatically. Even if it's the slightest upper hand, boom, you've given it to them psychology because they are now thinking that they have to earn or they have to get respect from you, right? Instead of you having to get respect from them. So authority, speak like the expert, speak on their level, right? Call them by their first name. It's okay. That's why we have names. It doesn't have to be sir, ma'am all the time. Call them by their first name, you know. Consistency. Confirm details and follow up consistently. That's pretty straightforward, right? The more consistent, the more apparent something is, the more always on maybe it is, right? If I'm always seeing that you're selling land, I probably want to see what else you have going on, right? Versus someone who's maybe not consistently selling land. They'll probably get less business because they haven't been doing it consistently, right? Follow-ups, consistent, go hand in hand. Liking, mirror their tone, find common ground. This goes back to tonality, right? Tonality is huge, and it's easy to kind of let it slip, especially if you're used to sales. Maybe you just gotten used to your pitch, whatever. But always keep an eye on your tone, right? Find that common ground is just meaning what? Connect with the person, right? We're all human. Social proof. This is where I want to talk about the Joneses effect, right? The Joneses effect. Oh, yeah, no problem, Mr. There goes that Mr. No problem, Mr. Joe Schmo. We were just stopping by because your neighbors next door, the Joneses, just signed up for the service. They got it. They're now gonna be receiving this money on this day. Maybe you don't say that, but you get what I'm saying, right? You get them the idea that the Joneses next door are also in on this, right? Mention other sellers or buyers you've helped. Social proof, right? If everybody sees, if you the person you're trying to sell to sees that other people around you that you work with are happy, then they think they'll be happy. So make them happy, right? That's easy, right? Mention other people. So moving on, emotional triggers that close deals. Whew, I can preach about this, but we're gonna wrap it up. But fear of loss. I think fear of loss is classic. It's a common theme in a lot of things I say, but fear of loss is probably the biggest emotional trigger, right? What is the fear of loss? Other buyers are looking to This could not be this should be available in the market for long. You know, it's priced to sell. That's a great phrase, priced to sell. Um, right? The idea that this opportunity for their land investment, if it's a buyer, right? Maybe you're trying to pitch it to a buyer. Yes, sir. I mean, it's a competitive price. I understand if maybe you're on the line, but maybe some other people would have some more interest in that. That's no problem. Fear of loss, something that they could possibly lose out on. They'll start freaking out. Greed. Uh-oh, this land could be flipped or subdivided, right? Let's connect this back to maybe if it was inherited land, right? That sister brother example, right? The lot was a good amount of acres, right? I think maybe she didn't want to be, she wouldn't want to hand it over and knew that somebody was going to make hundreds, thousands, millions off her brother's name, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Greed, right? Show them the bad thing that could happen, right? For the extreme. Okay, pain avoidance. We can take care of back taxes or fees. Interesting. I like this one. There's also a similar psychology principle. It's called taste aversion. When you taste something in your mouth and you really don't like it as a kid, right? And you kind of go with that for the rest of your life. Maybe you had a really bad tomato, and then for the rest of your life, you just, oh my God, I hate tomatoes. Pain avoidance, right? Same idea of taste aversion. We can say, hey guys, we can take care of back taxes or fees. Oh, taxes. I'm triggered, right? No, I'm just playing, but maybe the seller might be, right? Maybe they're tax delinquent. Okay? Maybe they're tax delinquent. If they're tax delinquent, you better be drilling that home. We can take back those taxes or fees, get you current. You don't have to worry about it. You don't pay any closing costs. Make it seem painless, right? Because people don't want to go through pain. And trust, right? We need to go back to that credibility. We need to go back to, hey, I'm local. You won't have to worry about me scamming you. You won't have to worry about you being exploited in any way, shape, or fashion. So, trust is huge, guys. A lot of the things that we go and we do and say in sales is based on trust. Like, the person has to trust you with their money, trust you with the experience that you get the service or the product, right? Because land sales is a process, right? We had to go. It involves accountants, attorneys, right? It involves wire transfers. It involves statements, right? Well, think about everything that goes into a land deal. Can you trust the person that you're talking to get the job done, right? With us, you can. Do we know that? Probably. But you want to make the person feel that. Make them feel that we're trustworthy. Okay? So that's psychology in sales, especially how it relates to land deals. I'm super excited that we got to go through this. Please feel free to ask me any questions. We'll see you at the next enrichment.
Thank you
Okay?
to those that
Thanks.
stuck around till the end. If you have any questions or want to join our call, don't
Hi,
forget
is
to
this
hit the
Miss
link to the
Rhodes?
Discord in the description. Don't
Hi,
forget to
Miss
like,
Rhodes. This is
subscribe,
Victor calling.
and guys,
I
as
hope
always,
all is
peace.
well. I'm calling you in regard to your problem.